ناخذ من عند البارتنرز نتورك مجموعه مشاريع منفذه اوريدي. المشاريع هذه نحللها بشكل انها تكون موجود عليها تو فاليوز اللي هي البرودكتس والسيرفيسز، وتكون فيه موجود عليها مربوطه في شغله اسمها السوليوشن كاتالوج. الاي اي بلاتفورم اللي عندنا بيعمل ريسيرش اند ديفلوبمنت على مجموعه المنتجات المتاحه والحلول المتاحه في داخل هذه المشاريع وتركيبها على يوز كيسز معينه. اليوز كيسز هذه بيتدخل فيها فريق الانوفيشنز والانجينيرنج، يعملها له ستراكشر تو ماتش من خلال الكونسلتنس نتورك اني اندستري اني بروجكت، سواء كان قطاع عسكري، قطاع بترولي، قطاع حكومي، قطاع اتمته، قطاع تحول رقمي لمؤسسات حكوميه. راح نوريكم فيديو بسيط بيختص بالكمبيوتر فيجن تم العمل فيه على القطاع البترولي وقطاع البناء. النظام اللي موجود، النظام انا بحب اتحرك وانا اتكلم معلش. النظام اللي موجود في الكمبيوتر فيجن هي عباره عن صور متاحه في اي كاميرات مراقبه الموجوده فعليا موجوده في اي لوكيشن. احنا اللي بنعمله انه بنحول الصور هذه الى ميتا داتا، والميتا داتا هذه تتحرك بنظام الجوريثم معين مبني على الذكاء الصناعي والماشين ليرنينج، وي كان كاستوميت بيزد على الكيس. ففور اكزامبل اذا شفتوا رايتوا انه الكاميرا كان ديتكت الصوره الخاصه بشخص معين اذا اقترب من مكان عمل، وهذا التطبيق كان خاص بالامن والسلامه في المحطات، في البترول، في الاويل سيكتور، في الدريلينج، في المايننج، حتى في الكونستراكشن. اذا كان في مثلا رافعه معينه وتحتها هيومن، السيستم اوتوماتيكلي جنا اليرت السوبرفايزر ويعمل كانه هو مختص في السيفتي بروسيس اللي هي خاصه في هذه المشاريع. من ناحيه اخرى اي الجوريثم معين طبعا لصعوبه الدخول الى هذه المؤسسات اللي فيها كريتيكال اوبريشنز زي الاويل سيكتور زون 1 زون 2 زون 0، فبالتالي احنا مضطرين نكون بهذه الحاله انه نبني فيرتشوال انفايرمنت، نبني بيئه شبيهه لها، بنعرف الانظمه وبنعرف الروتينز والسيناريوز اللي هي ممكن تكون حتى مستخدمه كبيئه تدريب للموظفين المستجدين على اي مؤسسه حكوميه. سمبلي احنا بنمسك السيناريوز اللي مبنيه على الفي ار والاوجمنت رياليتي، بنحولها الى فيديو كليبس اند وي ستارت تيتشنج الكاميراز، ماخذين بعين الاعتبار كل البارامترز الخاصه بالسيفتي، بالكالرز، بالاثنتكس تاعت الناس حسب نوع البشره، سمراء، بيضاء، الى اخره، من غير اي عنصريه. فبالتالي احنا بنطلع اليوز كيسز to be accurate will reach to accuracy more than 90 to 95%. هذه بما يخص الكمبيوتر فيجن. طبعا لها علاقه كمان بالتصنيع ولها علاقه حتى بالدرون سيستم، اللي احنا ممكن نربط الكاميرات هذه بالدرون سيستم تقدر تكشف في الاراضي الصحراويه مثلا على شيء اسمه الاويل سبيلز، تقدر تميز بين السمك وبين السفن فيما يخص حمايه البيئه. التطبيقات كثيره في موضوع الكمبيوتر فيجن، لكن انا اكتفي بهذا القدر، وان شاء الله اي حد عنده اي سؤال في هذا الموضوع انا ممكن انه نتناقش فيه سوية. راح نرجع هون على موضوع اللي هي منصه المحتوى الرقمي المتكامل. هذا السولوشن موجود اسمه محفوظاتي. محفوظاتي هذا يحتوي على عده اهداف اساسيه: حفظ الذاكره المؤسسيه في كافه انواع المستندات في بيئه معياريه. البيئه المعياريه للمستندات اللي هي الحصول على نظام مركزي يحتوي على كل الوثائق في جميع انواعها لضمان عدم وجود جزر معلوماتيه في المؤسسات. المؤسسات دائما موجود فيها مجموعه كبيره من الدوكيومنتس، منها قديمه جدا ومنها حديثه جدا. قبل قليل كنت اتكلم مع احد الحضور، كان يقول احنا مشكلتنا في التحول الرقمي او في تطوير بيئه العمل الخاصه بنا انه عندنا خبرات سابقه. اللي موجوده المعلومات هذه في عقولنا وموجوده في وثائق ورقيه. الفكره لما يكون عندك انت محتوى رقمي او منصه تحتوي على كل الوثائق الالكترونيه في نظام موحد، انت راح تحصل على اداره الدوره المستنديه ضمن البيئه تضمن الحوكمه. حتى الهيستوري والباكلوج تقدر تخلق منه معلومات خاصه قد تستفيد منها الاجيال القادمه وتستفيد منها في تطوير المؤسسات اللي حاليا تستخدم هذه الوثائق. تضمن بيئه تضمن التحول الى بيانات معرفيه. تصير عندك بوابه رقميه، سواء كانت هذه المعلومات على شكل فيديوز، على شكل صور، على شكل وثائق الكترونيه، على شكل بحوث R&D تقدر تشاركها مع جامعاتك ومؤسساتك التعليميه. فبالتالي انت تاخذ البلد من مرحله معينه تتجاوز الاخطاء وتنجز شيء جديد قادر على تطوير التحول الرقمي بشكل سلس جدا يناسب الاجيال القادمه. احنا الان الديجيتال سوفت سكيلز، انا مواليد مثلا 80، في ناس الان اذا بتشوفوا مواليد الالفينات راح تشوفوا يتعامل مع التكنولوجيا بشكل اسلس واسهل، لانه الديجيتال سوفت سكيلز والاكسبكتيشن للاجيال القادمه راح تكون مختلفه كليا عن الاجيال الحاليه. البيئة المعيارية المركزية تضمن إدارة فعالة للمستودعات الأرشيفية وأمن وسلامة المستودعات. البيئة المعيارية مش متعلقة فقط بالوثائق الإلكترونية، البيئة المعيارية قد تكون متعلقة حتى بالوثائق المستندية المرئية الملموسة. لازم يكون عندك centralized warehousing بضمن معايير معينة تحتوي فيها أنت جميع الوثائق الموجودة السابقة وتعرضها لسياساتها بسياسة الإعدام أو الحفظ الدائم ضمن لجان معينة تشكل لهذا الأساس. تحقيق ذلك احنا استخدمنا بعض الالجوريثمز بالذكاء الصناعي لعملية فهرستها بشكل يمكن المؤسسات من التعامل مع هذه الوثائق بكافة أنواعها. طبعا هناك معايير وسياسات وافضل الممارسات العالميه بناء المنصه. زي ما نقول نحن نبدا من حيث انتهى الاخر، ما في داعي نبدا من الصفر. فعندنا مؤسسات عالميه مثل معيار السجلات الرقميه والبيانات الوصفيه، الاوبن اركايفل انفورميشن سيستم، الديسكرايبنج الاركايفل اكونتنت ستاندردز، الاجهزه الحكوميه والمواقع الجغرافيه اللي هي مثل تصنيف كوفك. كوفك هو اللي هو بيبني الهيراركي للمؤسسات والشركات من حيث التوصيف والمسميات والشخصيات اللي تتعلق في هذه الاداره. وعندك معيار انشاء مركز الارشيف والمحفوظات المكاني اللي هو يضمن سلامه هذه الوثائق المحفوظه، سواء هذه كانت وثائق تتعلق بالدستور، تتعلق بالقوانين، في لوائح، في عقود معينه، تضعها في بيئه امنه تخلو من الرطوبه، فيها انظمه خاصه للفاير الارمز، للفاير ديتكشنز وغيرها. دورة حياة الوثيقة بسيطة جدا، هي عبارة عن معلومة موجودة في رأس الإنسان. المعلومة هذه تنتقل من مرحلة إنها تكون معلومة معرفة يتم تداولها بشكل أورال فوكال عن طريق الكلام إلى وثيقة. وثيقة اللي هي هذه المعلومة لما يتم تجهيزها في قوالب معينة، قد تكون رسالة، قد تكون عقد، قد تكون كتاب، قد تكون بحث. فبالتالي الأوعية هذه لأي وثيقة قد تكون على شكل ورق، على شكل وثيقة إلكترونية، فيلم، أو ممكن تكون حتى فويس نوت. أوكي؟ مجرد ما إنه الوثيقة هذه تسجلت في أي مؤسسة فهي تعتبر إيفيدنس أو بروف. تعتبر يعني بنسميها باللغه العربيه اللي هي بينه. اوكي. فالبينه هذه يتم التعامل معها على هوا اهميتها، على هوا تصنيفها. فبالتالي نعمل جزء من هذه السجلات تحتوي على بينه لديها قيمه طويله الامد اللي نسميها لها حفظ دائم، او قصيره الامد اللي هي لها مثلا اعدام بعد 3 سنين او 4 سنين. الهدف من المنصه اللي هي فيها 5 موديولز اساسيين: منصه المحتوى الشامل محفوظاتي، إدارة تصنيف البيانات الاستنادية. البيانات والوثائق لما نيجي نصنفها لازم نتعامل معها على عدة عوامل، منها المكان اللي أنشأت فيه، نوعها، خصوصيتها، هل هي بيانات قابلة للنشر، بيانات غير قابلة للنشر، الشخصيات المرتبطة فيها، وإلى آخره. وإدارة المستندات في الوحدات التنظيمية، اللي هي الوحدات التنظيمية للجهات اللي تتعلق بهذه الوثائق، من جهات حكومية، من شركات أخرى تتعامل مع الحكومة، أي ستيك هولدرز ممكن يتعامل من ضمن الورك فلو. وإدارة الأرشيف والمحفوظات المركزي هي عبارة عن أرشيف مركزي يتم التعامل فيه مع كل الوثائق التي تنتج من كل الجهات الحكومية في centralized area، يكون لها وجهين: وجه الكتروني ووجه اخر اللي هو الوجه الفيزيكال او الستورج نفسها للوثائق والدوكيومنتس اللي موجوده عندنا. واداره الوثائق الالكترونيه الناشئه اللي هي دوره المستنديه من حيث انشاء الوثيقه، سواء كانت هي بيبر بورن ورق فيزيكال ملموس، او كانت ديجيتال بورن مثل ملف على بورد او رسائل معينه انت يتم عملها. وبوابه المعرفه اللي هي بنسميها احنا جوجل لايك، اللي هي يتم من خلالها تعريف رولز بيرميشنز على مستوى اي شخص يتعامل مع هذه البوابه المعرفيه. قد تكون هاي البوابه يستفيد منها المواطن او المقيم، او اي ستيك هولدرز يختص بهذه البوابه. مثلا اذا كانت هي هاي البوابه خاصه بمؤسسه معينه، فكل اداره معينه ستطلع على الدوكيومنتس الخاصه فيها على هوا التصنيفات التي تضع مسبقا. محفوظاتي زي ما ذكرنا بالسابق هي عبارة عن إدارة أرشيف المعاملات الإدارية والمالية والتخصصية، وإدارة الأرشيف الإعلامي بشكل كامل مثل الصور الفوتوغرافية، الصوتيات والمرئيات. أنتم شفتوا كيف نتعامل مع المرئيات، فإحنا نفس الشيء في عندنا مجلات معينة عالمية طلبت منا إنه نطلع المنشطات الخاصة في شخصيات معينة لا نقدر على ذكرها، ورسمنا غرف إخبارية لكل شخصية في الكونتنت المكتوب عنه، وتم تصنيف الكونتنت هذا هل هو ايجابي، هل هو نيورال، هل هو سلبي. اوكي. وعلى اساس ذلك تم عمل داشبورد واناليسيس في اكثر من لغه في اكثر من لهجه. اوكي. طبعا الاركايفنج سيستم للبريد الالكتروني في دقه قديمه، موديل قديم، بس خلينا نحكي انه ما زال في للان في ناس they archive their emails on their local machines، بينما انت في ايميلات قد تكون كريتيكال في الاوبريشنز اللي هي الخاصه موجوده عندك. مثل الحادثه صارت في احدى المؤسسات الحكوميه، واحد دز ايميل لشخص في الماليه خلاه يصرف تشيك، هاكر خلاه يصرف مبلغ معين باسم كونتراكت، وهو هذا عباره عن هاكر. فاحنا to detect these incidents او any type of instance او any variable solutions لازم احنا يكون عندنا نظام مركزي لحفظ كل الاركايفد ايميلز بشكل مركزي. اداره ارشيف المطبوعات والمكتبه الرقميه اللي هي تفيد جدا في موضوع البحث العلمي، وتنشر اللي هي والبحث العلمي والمعرفي. مثال، انا اذا بدي ادرب محاميين على قوانين ولوائح معينه تخص مثلا في المناقصات، فانا ممكن عن طريق العلم التراكمي اللي موجود في القضايا اللي موجوده عندنا ندرب الاي اي في طريقه معينه انه يعمل الريليشنال اندكسنج، فيربط لك الكيس في اكثر من حل وكيف تعامل مع القانون، وتجد طريقه انسب حتى في نص القوانين الجديده. قد تكون في عندك مراكز بحوث معينه وكليات معينه مربوطه على هذا النظام، تتيح لها الدخول الى السكوب اوف ورك مثلا في المشاريع وهذه المشاريع اذا خلصت في وقت مناسب قياسي او وقت غير مناسب، فبالتالي انت تستطيع من هذه مشاركه المعرفه مع اكثر عدد ممكن من الناس المختصه المتعلقه بهذا النظام. شغلنا احنا جرينولوجي صراحه لا اخفيكم بس بالاي اي مع هذه المؤسسه. المؤسسه هذه فيها تقريبا اللي بنى البرنامج اكثر من 250 ديفلوبر. احنا شغلنا كان في الموضوع الخاص في الارتفيشال انتليجنس بالتعامل مع الوثائق. التراديشنال او سي ار والاي اس ار هو بيتعامل مع عده انواع من الوثائق الالكترونيه اللي هي السكان دوكيومنت اللي هي ورقيه اللي بتدخلها بسكانر بمسح ضوئي، او بدوكيومنت سواء بي دي اف او وورد فايل يونت، او عباره عن صور معينه، او ميديا فيديوز معينه او فويس. السكانر بشكل عام بيحول الدوكيومنت هذه الى تكست وبخزنها بداتابيز ضمن اندكس معين. الايديا اللي احنا ضفناها عملنا اي بي اي على مستوى الالجوريثمز. فاذا كان عندك نظام بنظام النظام اللي موجود عندك طريقه معينه للاندكس، احنا we can participate on this part also only. Okay, so you don't need to build the whole system to be written or you replace السيستم كامل. احنا نقدر نعمل innovations على الابلكيشنز اللي موجوده عندك ونطور فيها موضوع الاندكس. سمبلي احنا بنستخدم ثلاث تقنيات اللي هي تنسور فلو وديب سبيتش 2. بنستخدم البايتورش في موضوع الديب ماشين ليرنينج. الانبوتس مجرد ما ياخذ الايمج او ياخذ التكست او ياخذ اي نوع من الوثيقه بيعمل عليها بروسيس. اول شيء بنسميه البري بروسيس اللي هي بيمسكها بيدخلها على الترسل بيصنفها بيبعثها للتنسر فلو وبيصير يصير يكتب يحولها لتكست. اذا كانت فويس راح تروح على الديب سبيتش 2، اذا كانت عباره عن دوكيومنت عاديه راح يدخلها على التنسر فلو ويربطها باكثر من لايبرري لاكثر من لغه ولاكثر من دايره. اوكي، احنا تقريبا مربوطين على اكثر من 120 لايبرري في هذا النظام تتحدث اكثر من دايره. بيفهم الديالوج الخليجي، بيفهم الديالوج الشامي، بيفهم الديالوج المصري، بيفهم حتى الديالوج المغربي. اوكي، من اذر هاند بنعمل شيء اسمه البوست بروسيس اللي هي الباي تورش بيعمل الديب ليرنينج وبصير يميز الكونتنتس هذه ويصنفها على انواعها. هو نوع الكونتنت اللي موجود فيها، الشخصيات المرتبطه فيها، ويقارنها في دوكيومنتس اخرى. مثال، اذا انت عندك وثيقه معينه، الوثيقه هذه ما بتعرف هي وين مخزنه، ببساطه كل عليك تعمل تصور الوثيقه هذه ترفعها على السيرش انجن في البلاتفورم اوتوماتيكلي راح يجيب لك الوثائق المشابهه اذا ما وصل الوثيقه نفسها. كثير من الشركات استخدمت الاركايفنج والمؤسسات في مثلا قبل 15 سنه. انا شخصيا اشتغلت في الكويت اويل كومباني بالسبورت على ابلكيشن اسمه الدرس اللي هو الهايلاند. وكان الموضوع مجرد عباره عن دوكيومنتس في باركود من غير ما يكون فيها كونتنت. ما في كان اي سي ام، اعتقد الان طوروا صار له كونتنت مانجمنت. فبالتالي كان الاندكسنج وجاذرنج الانفورميشن ياخذ وقت طويل. الان بعصر الذكاء الصناعي صار الاندكسنج اوتوماتيك، يبني الريليشن لوحده. وهذا زي ما تفضلت بالبدايه اللي هو اللي خاص بالترين داتا سيت. لما تعمل ترين داتا سيت للنوع الوثائق راح تعرف الوثائق تصنف من غير اي جهد، من غير اي خطا بشيء. التكنولوجي ستاك اللي نستخدمها بسيطه جدا. احنا بنستخدم الاي بي اي فيرست. لما نقول اي بي اي معناته هي عباره عن المايكرو سيرفيسز موجود تشتغل عندنا الانفايرمنت على الاوبنتو، على الريد هات، تشتغل على الاي او اس واندرويد. حتى الانظمه هذه تتمكن اي مثلا متخذ قرار انه يستخدمها من خلال الموبايل ابلكيشن، خاصه انه ممكن احنا نضيف عليها موضوع الديجيتال سيجنتشر بما يخص الورك فلو والابلكيشنز الخاصه بها. الانتجريشن، بما انه احنا بنتكلم على منصه للمحتوى المتكامل الرقمي الموحد، يعني centralized document management system, centralized archiving. معناته لازم يكون للمنصه القدره على التعامل والتكامل مع اكثر من موردين تكنولوجيا، سواء كانوا هذول بيشتغلوا بالاي سي ام زي الاوبن تكست، الليزر فيش، الاي بي ام اي سي ام، نكسيو، او الريليشنال داتا بيزز زي الكاوتش بيز والمونجو داتا بيز اللي هي الستراكشر الداتا تبعها بسموه الريليشنال، يعني غير مترابط. طبعا اكيد تكلمنا عن المين الاركايفنج، فبالتالي احنا بنقدر نعمل مع اي بيئه عمل موجوده في اي مؤسسه في مواضيع تخص اليوزرز، نقدر نعمل ترابط وتكامل مع الاكتف دايركتوري، الاكسشينج، الميل سيرفرز، الاي ام بما يخص الايدنتيتي لكل موظف، والاذر اي ار بي سيستمز فيما بتكون تحت طبعا اللي هي هاي سكيورد ترانزاكشنز زي الاوراكل، زي الساب، زي الباور بي اي، زي السي. هذه طبعا اللي هي اكيد وحدات العمل لاي منصه موجود فيها المسح الضوئي، التصنيف الكمي، التحويل النصي الالي الاو سي ار. وطبعا التحويل ممكن يكون هذا عن طريق الباتشز، يعني ممكن ترفع انت مليون اوف دوكيومنتس والسيستم اوتوماتيكلي والورك نت ويحولها لكونتنت بالتقنيات الذكاء الصناعي. حتى السيستم قادر على التصنيف الكمي للمستندات اللي هي تصنيف الملايين وفحصتها بدون تدخل بشري. هو لوحده احنا في البدايه بنعرف خصوصيه الدوكيومنتس، بنعرف الشخصيات المرتبطه فيها، الادارات، ستراكشر الحكومي كامل. اوتوماتيكلي السيستم بيعرف يصنف هاي المعلومات، مثلا الوزير الفلاني هذه الوثائق المتعلقه فيه، الاداره الفلانيه هاي الوثائق المتعلقه فيها، مركز البحث الفلاني هاي الدكتور والى اخره. فبالتالي تسهل سير العمل على نطاق الشخص اللي راح يكون مسؤول عن المركز. والتحويل النصي للسجلات، تعريف بصمه الصوت وتفريغ السجلات. مثال بسيط زي ما تعمل مينتس ميتنج، احنا بنعرف الحضور، ناخذ بصمه الصوت لكل شخص، وبالتالي اي سؤال ممكن ينسال قال محمد مثلا، قال علي. فبالتالي تكتب اللي هي المينتس اوف ميتنج والكونتنت الخاص فيها اوتوماتيكلي ضمن قوالب معرفه مسبقا بفريق العمل اللي هو راح يعمل اناليسيس لكل اداره. سير العمل، مجرد ما حولنا الدوكيومنتس، حولنا الوثائق الى كونتنت، سير العمل راح يكون بسلاسه يعمل على التحول الرقمي. خلاص انت كل الكونتنتس والانفورميشن صارت موجوده عندك، موجوده بشكل واضح ومقسم واندكست على داتا بيز موحد يربط كل المؤسسات الحكوميه والستيك هولدرز الخاصه فيها، مثلا المواطنين، المقيمين، اللي بده يعمل اي فيزا اكسترا. اوتوماتيكلي انت بيتم الربط بين مسير العمل الكترونيا في ضبط وبناء وتحرير ونشر الوثائق بكل ما يخص تخصص. ربط الوثيقه على الخرائط الرقميه والجي اي اس. احنا اتفقنا في البدايه انه الوثيقه كان دي بورن ديجيتال او بورن فيزيكال، رايت؟ فالوثيقه هذه يحدد لها الجي اي اس بيقدر اوتوماتيكلي على حسب الابلكيشنز وين هو موجوده، او ممكن تكون رقميا احنا نعرفها مانيوال. فمثلا اذا كانت دائره تخطيط اراضي في بلديه، فسند الوثيقه الملكيه لهذه الارض، فممكن اوتوماتيكلي يوضح لك وين هذه السند موجود في اي لوكيشنز، وممكن انت من خلاله تعمل كومباريزن على السات ايمج وتقدر تعرف انه هاي الوثيقه مخالفه او لا. ممكن تطير درون تعمل فيرتشوال تور وتجيب لك المقايسات والمواصفات الهندسيه لهذا المبنى بما يخص الوثائق اللي موجوده عندك على الموضوع. بعض الوظائف اللي هي موجوده عندنا اللي هي الار بي ايز. مثل ما انتم عارفين في الار بي ايز اتندنت وان اتندنت. بدل ما احنا نحط 20 موظف يعمل اوردر معين، ممكن انت جست ابلود الدوكيومنت بطريقه معينه والار بي اي دو ذا اذر اندكسينج دو ذا اذر جوب. الفهرسه الاثرائيه والتحليليه بالتحويل النصي او سي ار، او التحويل اللي هو الزون او سي ار، اللي هي بيخلق فيرتشوال زونز لكل دوكيومنت كونتنت معين وبصير يصنفها فيرتشوال من غير تدخل الانسان، بناء على ضوابط احنا نضعها في البدايه مع اللجنه اللي هي بتكون مختصه. مثلا اذا بدنا نعمل شيء مركزي لازم يكون في لجان موجوده في طرف الادارات اللي هي الريموت، وبطرف اللي هي اللجنه المركزيه للمحتوى الرقمي الموحد. استخدام تقنيات الذكاء الصناعي اللي هي الاي سي ار، هي سمبلي اللي بيعمل من السيجنالز اللي هي جايه من الفويس نوت او الفيديو الى ترانسكريبت والترجمه الى اللغه العربيه في عده لهجات او عده لغات. فاذا مثلا طلبت منك دوكيومنت تكون بالانجليزي، ما في داعي انك تروح تبعتها لمكتب ترجمه، اوتوماتيكلي اذا عندك الصلاحيه with one click you will translate it to English and send it to the concerned entity. هذا الشيء مهم جدا في موضوع contracting business، خاصة مع الجهات الأجنبية. فأنت بتكتب شيء خاص بلوائحك القانونية، طبعا لازم ينعمل بروفا وتدريب على هذا الموضوع حسب الكريتيكاليتي اوف ذا اوبريشن. هو فايس فيرسا، يعني من عربي لانجليزي ومن انجليزي لعربي. شات بوت يعني ما راح نبيعه بمايكروسوفت. احنا الشات بوت تبعنا خاص فيما يخص البلاتفورم تبعنا، احنا مش مايكروسوفت شات بوت باي ذا واي. بس الفكره انه الشات بوت هو عباره عن مثل اسيستنت، يقدر يسمع منك انت مين، ياخذ منك ممكن اي دي معين، ممكن فيس اي دي معين، وعلى الاساس هذا يتعامل معك ويظهر لك فقط الدوكيومنتس الخاصه بك. اذا بيعطيك اي اسيستنت ممكن يكون مهم جدا في موضوع نشر المعرفه مع مراكز البحوث. ممكن احنا نحدد انه يدخل على هذه الوثائق فقط اللي هي تعتبر وثائق عامه. البحث بالوثائق الغير مهيكله اللي هي الفيكتور سيرش بنسميها لكشف المطابقه. المطابقه فيها 1 to 1 و 1 to many. الفيكتور سيرش هو الجوريثم بيسهل الناس عمليه البحث على ملف او جزء من ملف في ملايين الدوكيومنتس والوثائق، حتى بوريك وين موجوده فيزيكلي ستورد باي مكان باي لوكيشن. تعرف على وجه الفيس ريكوجنيشن في الصور الفوتوغرافيه، ذكرت مساع اللي كان منتبه على موضوع اللي طلب منا احدى الفي اي بي انه وين موجود هو في المجلات الخاصه فيه. مايكرو سيرفيسز اركتكت يعني always the development is there and easy to expand. الاعتماد على منصه الربط والتكامل مع الانضمام. لكل مايكرو سيرفيس عندنا، لكل فانكشن، لكل فيتشر موجود عندنا اي بي اي جيت واي كان انتراكت وذ اني ثيرد بارتي سيستم، اي سيستم اخر نقدر نعمل معاه انتراكشنز. اللي اكيد الحين احنا ب 2023 الكل عنده مستودعات ذكيه، مستودعات في مواصفات عالميه تسمح لحفظ الوثائق هذه بشكل سليم وصحي، مثل الفاير الارم. في شيء اسمه فاير بريفنشن اللي بيعطيك زي بيئه الطياره، بيكون الاكسجين الموجود في الغرفه كافي للتنفس وغير كافي لاحداث الحرق. واعتقد هاي السيستمز اللي هي والصناديق والفهرسه اللي لها الاوتوماتيكلي بتكون مربوطه اكزاكتلي كمان في الوثيقه اللي مرفوعه على النظام. وبنعمل سينكرونايزيشنز حتى على الكنترولر ليفل تبع هاي الحافظات للمستندات. يعني on the business, on the technology wise, and the soft part, also we can update the hardware with the information related to this document. باختصار الوحدات العمل الإضافية، دعم تنظيم عمل المستندات المادية، التسكين والترفيه بالحافظات اللي هي مثال ذكرناها الفيزيكال، الإعارة والاتضاع والمناولة والإرجاع وتنظيم الرفوف. ممكن وثيقة خاصة أنت حابب تطلعها من الحافظة الفعلية، ولازم يكون هناك في سياسي للإعارة والاتضاع والمناولة والإرجاع. تشكيل اللجان الSHRM وأعضائها، في طبعا بيكون عندك لجان خاصة في كل مؤسسة، وفي لجان موجودة مركزية اللي هي لجنة الحفظ ولجنة الإتلاف ولجنة التقييم. تشكل هذه على حسب سياسات الدولة أو حسب سياسات المؤسسة اللي بتقوم بحفظ هذه الوثائق. وبشكل دوري راح يتم عندك أعمال التقييم والنقل والإتلاف والترحيل بناء على السياسات المعرفة مسبقا. طبعا أغلب المؤسسات تتبع اللي تتبع الستاندردز العالميه في موضوع الاتلاف وموضوع التعامل مع هذه الوثائق. والتحليل الاحصائي ومؤشرات الاداء والاوديت تريل، هذا الشيء مخصص طبعا في نوع الوثيقه نفسها. تشوف مؤشرات الاداء للموظفين من حيث التحول الرقمي، يعني بيتعاملوا وبيرفعوا وورد دوكيومنتس، ولا الناس فقط شغاله على البيبر وورك. برضه في كمان اللي هو سجل دعم الاحداث اللي هي الاوديت تريل، بحيث تعرف مين اللي رفع الدوكيومنتس هاي، وتبروتكت الانفايرمنت من ناحيه السكيورتي. هاي بعض الشاشات اللي موجوده بشكل بسيط، طبعا هي متوفره باللغه العربيه واللغه الانجليزيه. تظهر فيها الفهرسه، تظهر فيها هناك شات بوت الادمن اللي ممكن يساعد، وتظهر فيها تصنيفات الدوكيومنتس كامله. هذا الاطلاع على الوثائق نفسها، الكونتنتس، تقدر تعمل فيها مسح ضوئي، استيراد، حذف، كل الاعدادات لها، بتشوف الدوكيومنتس هاي وين موجوده متاحه، وين موجوده متاحه بالضبط، وين اللوكيشن اللي ممكن تكون موجوده فيه، نوع الوثيقه نفسها ممكن يكون معرف، رقم القيد اللي هي مسجله فيه، والى اخره. هذا ما يخص اللوكيشنز. مثلا اذا هاي الوثيقه موجوده مثلا في مكان معين، او هي الوثيقه نفسها تخص اريا معينه، فراح يوريك هي موجوده باي مكان مخزنه، حتى على مستوى باي رف ممكن تكون. جوجل لايك، انواع الوثائق، تصنيفاتها، حاله الاعتماد بالوثائق، هذه تظهر لكل موظف على حسب نوع تخصصه، فبالتالي نضمن هون عمليه التحول الرقمي على مستوى الادارات والمؤسسات المتعلقه بالنمو. هاي الذاكره المؤسسيه اللي هي تصنيفها زي ما انتم شايفين: وثائق عامه، وثائق بنكيه، وثائق ماليه، وثائق سياسيه، ارشيف اراضي، الى اخره، كل بما يخصه، والفهرسه تبعتها وسنواتها من اي سنه لاي سنه ظهرت. الميتا داتا كثير، وفي داتا وير هاوس اندكسنج كثير وجروينج اول ذا تايم، واحنا دائما بنحسن المنظومه هاي بتكون تخدم اكبر عدد من المؤسسات. شكرا.
نشكر المهندس سليمان أبو رأس مدير شركة جرين انرجي في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، فليتفضل باستلام شهادة تقدير.
Now I would like to invite Dr. Majid Dunia, the General Manager of CASP, Kuwait Application Service Provider Company, to talk about practical case study of AI.
Assalamu alaikum. Today I'm going to discuss about a number of case studies and practical case studies in AI. These are mainly things that we work on at CASP. CASP is a local Kuwaiti company. We have been in Kuwait for almost 35 years. So and we work with all the banks and government agencies and others. And we have a lot of experience in analytics, application building, implementation of large systems. But recently, and I would say starting from 2020, around the time COVID affected all our lives, we started getting into AI, at least in Kuwait. Personally, I have been involved in AI for a very long time, since I was a researcher back in the 90s in the US. But at that point, it was essentially part of just research. It didn't really have a lot of presence in people's lives. Now things are very different, I think. So first, I'll just briefly discuss the evolution of essentially decision-making algorithms. So if we look at software algorithms in decision-making, we can classify them essentially into three main categories. This is not like totally scientific or anything, but it will help frame the rest of the discussion. So for a long time, the main way to do decision-making was rule-based. So essentially, it's simply put, you test for a certain condition, and if that condition is fulfilled, you perform a certain activity. If not, then you perform another activity, and so on. And this is actually effective, it's reliable, well understood, and it's good for applications that require this kind of certainty. So for example, loan approvals. You cannot really have fuzzy type of uncertainty when you're doing loan approvals. Plus, you also need traceability. You need to be able to go back and say, why was that loan approved? Did it actually conform to all of these criteria and specifications and regulations and all of that, which is very difficult to do when you're using machine learning. So it has its uses, and it will still exist for a long time. And part of that was actually the category of expert systems, where you can actually have systems that will actually do diagnostics and things like that. The problem with this approach is that after a while, it becomes extremely difficult to maintain, because rules are not always like that, clear, because what you end up with is like you have nested rules. So you have many conditions that you need to test for, and there's a dependency between these conditions. So you say, if this exists, if this is true, then I need to do this. But you say, if it's not true, then I need to test for something else. And that order of testing may affect the outcome, and so on. So after a while, this becomes, if you have a lot of different parameters, if you're dealing with a problem that have a lot of different factors that affect the outcome, and these factors, you need to consider them in a proper way, then after a while, this approach will not really serve you very well. So that's where things started moving towards statistical reasoning. And for that, you don't deal with things, you don't check with things that are either true or false, or right or wrong, or yes or no. You deal with a spectrum. You deal with a numeric type of application where things are actually according to a spectrum. So in that sense, you can accept some level of uncertainty. It helps approximate the outcome. Definitely, it's really good in determining probability, numerical analysis, anything that has to do with what they call curve fitting, as you can see. So if you have lots of different values that you need to come up with an approximation so that you can project what the value will be in the future, that's really a good application. Of course, things evolve towards machine learning, and machine learning has a huge advantage over the previous two approaches, because it can deal with arbitrary data. It doesn't have to be numeric, it doesn't have to be logical. It can be anything. It can be images, it can be sound. I'm sure we've all enjoyed all of the previous presentations. You've seen wonderful applications of machine learning. Pretty much everything you've seen labeled as AI is machine learning, because this is really the primary branch of AI that's making massive progress at the moment. And of course, I don't want to get into generative AI, because this is not really my area of expertise. I want to get into today I'm only going to be discussing how machine learning was applied or is being applied in decision-making and solving problems that involve decision-making. And I'm going to provide two examples. One example is predictive analytics example, where we want to be able to provide reliable, continuous predictions and forecasts for a very complex problem in a completely automated manner. So that's one example that I'll be discussing. The other example is actually diagnostics of defects and cracks. And the case that I'll be showing relates to airplanes, essentially, because they have to be inspected before every flight. So as you can see, this is kind of, the spectrum here is between, the left-hand side is like the traditional procedural iterative type of algorithms. And on the right-hand side you're talking about like what they call like fuzzy boundaries, things that have a lot of uncertainty, that essentially, because the problem is so complex, it's very difficult to describe as rules or procedures. Then you rely on machine learning, which what it does, it builds heavily on statistical reasoning, but it takes it to another level. And that's why it can actually solve these ill-defined problems that are very difficult to define or describe a clear procedural way to solve them. So this is where the main value that it adds. Now, if you look at machine learning, and this is the last slide just before I get into the examples, there are really two main types of machine learning. There is supervised learning and unsupervised learning. You would think, like, why would you do unsupervised learning? I mean, you're trying to get a system to produce a certain type of outcome, right? They are actually used for very different things. Supervised learning is more closely related to decision making, which is really what I'll be focused on today. But unsupervised learning is extremely important too, because it helps you with discovery. If you have a huge set of data and you want to cluster it, you want to classify it, but you have no idea what kind of classifications exist within that data upfront, then unsupervised learning is an excellent way to do that, because it will help you. It will give you some insights. It will help you with clustering the data. And at that point, it doesn't consider the output. It doesn't have this feedback loop where you have the supervised learning, where you kind of teach the machine to produce reliable outcomes. In this case, you're not really interested in that, but you're interested in creativity, in wanting to actually come up with things that you haven't thought about. So this is the kind of the main difference. I listed some main algorithms under each one. I'm not going to talk about that because that's going to be just technical. But today, the main focus will be supervised learning. And the first application that I'm going to discuss today is forecasting. And if you look at how supervised learning works for forecasting, so this is actually representing a real-life practical application that we built here in Kuwait. I cannot really disclose details about it, but I'm just mentioning that this is something that we personally work on. So we had this problem of a very difficult, we had a very complicated forecasting model. It had a number of, I think about around 250 different parameters that will affect the outcome. And each of these parameters have a weight, and that weight can be adjusted. So it's almost like you have a complex machine with different valves, and these valves can be set at different values. And depending on the combination of all of these things, then you get a certain outcome. And what you want to do is that you want to direct this whole complex machine to produce a reliable forecast going forward. That's one thing. And number two is to make sure that it's self-correcting, because these weights do not stay constant forever. You have different times of the year. You have summer, you have winter, you have Ramadan, you have Eid, you have lots of different things. So, and you have school season, you have holiday season, you have all sorts of things. So you want this machine to be self-correcting and producing the kind of reliable, accurate results that you need. So how did we design this solution? What we did there is that we actually, in our case, which is not always in every case, and that's why these things are very case specific. So in our case, we actually had reliable actual data. So we're looking at the past. We know data about the past. So what we decided to do is that we decided to actually, so that's one thing I want to actually just quickly mention, is that today there are a lot of analytical or predictive analytic tools, pretty much all of them. They have embedded machine learning. So you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. You can, if you have a good analytics tool, most likely it will have a component which is an embedded machine learning component. You just need to use it and apply it. So what we did is that we took one of those components, an embedded machine learning component in predictive analytics, and then we built that forecasting model that was built in a spreadsheet with 250 different parameters. We modeled that, we translated that model into that machine learning, embedded machine learning model. And then we trained that model to produce the results of the previous period, right? So we thought, okay, what is the outcome what is the combination of all of these different parameters that will produce the actual results that we know are true? And we took these settings. Now we consider that we have a trained model, and then we apply it to deliver the forecasting for the next period. Now, the key thing here is that what we did is that we decided to, in order to have this run accurately, we had to do something, we actually had to shorten that predictive cycle. So let's say this used to take like a month. So we take like a data from a month ago. Now actually shorten that so that we can take it from a week or just a few days. Because once we have short periods, things are not going to change that much. The incremental changes are not going to be that great. And we can always capture that in the new results. So, and you will be really surprised by what this was able to achieve. So this is kind of the idea, right? But what I want to actually show you is that this actually doesn't run in a vacuum. Because in order for this to actually work and work continuously and deliver these forecasts and results, it has to be part of a continuous system. So this is kind of the machine learning part, but it has to live within a larger application because there's a lot of stuff. So that data, where does it come from? Some procedure, ETL or whatever kind of boring traditional type of programming will need to be in place in order to collect this data from the sources quickly, package it, translate it, put it in the appropriate format, run things, do the feedback and all of that stuff. So the next slide is, I'm going to actually show you the actual case study in more detail. Right. So this was the world before we actually did anything. So we had a whole bunch of data sources, different data sources. And then we had actually a forecasting model, which was built in Excel. And then we have a lot of different manual procedures to extract the data from these different systems, package them in the right way, put them in the Excel, move them from one format to another, do some additional data entry, run the forecasting, run the calculations, essentially present them manually to a committee with the results so that they can evaluate. And based on that, they would make a decision based on the forecasting. They will actually say, okay, this is our forecast for the next period as an organization. Now, this used to take about 18 person days per month to do. As you can see, it's an extremely manual process. There is lots of involvement, lots of different systems to integrate with, to actually extract data from, put it, review it. And of course, once you have manual activities, then you have errors. So there are people who actually supervise what's happening and correct the errors and review, and people who review it, the reviewers. And so because it was very difficult the prediction period was very long, and the maintaining 250 parameters is not an easy task with the different combinations. So the accuracy fell to about 82%, which wasn't good enough for this application at all. I cannot really get into the details, but for this type of application, that doesn't work. So what we did is the following. The first step is that we said, okay, we have to automate this whole process of data extraction. We cannot live with this. We cannot have people actually extracting reports manually and putting them into sources. So we put together an ETL, which is just a tool that would actually, it's a commercially available tool. We didn't invent that, of course. So what this does is that it does data integration. So it connects to data sources, extracts whatever data that's relevant to the problem we have, and puts it in. We created a data mart. It's like a data warehouse, and we put the data here, right? Then we took that prediction model, that forecasting model, we created that model in the embedded machine learning of our analytics tool that we use it. And then we trained it based on the actual real data that we extracted from the sources, so that it can actually produce the same results. Then we took this forward. We created the dashboards that will actually display the results, and then we provided the recommendations automatically as well. And the idea is that that keeps going continuously, that doesn't stop. And the results here is essentially there is zero, literally 0% days. Some people in the organization don't know that this is happening anymore. They just get these dashboards and that's it, because they forgot about all the effort that used to be there. And the accuracy, which is really more important, jumped to 99.1% as average. In fact, it hasn't actually fell below 99% since February of 2021. So it's not magic. It's just a matter of now, because we have a fully automated system, we can afford to keep continuously extracting the data from its sources all the time, almost on a daily basis, adding it, running it, and keep adjusting the forecast. So the forecast never falls away from the actuals. It doesn't go far away. So it is a way to it delivered decent results. But of course, I have to put a caveat here. We have a situation where we have access to the actual data. And that actual data is in systems, it's an electronic form, we can extract it, and we can actually apply it into the model. Plus, number two, we have a very sophisticated forecasting model. So not every problem lends itself to be able to create a model regardless of how many parameters you have. So this is just a case where this can apply, but this is a case that was like that, like a couple of years ago. Now it looks like this. So, and the whole transformation took, I think, about less than 6 months, this whole transformation. And partly was done during COVID, so you can see the challenges there, but it was done. And this was actually our first time doing something like that, so there's also sometimes some learning effort on our side as well. So as you can see, this is and today, the same tools, if you look at 2 years after, they're much more sophisticated, much easier to use. So I think if we do this today, we could probably get it done in a couple of months. Now we get into the other examples, where I'm just going to talk about one more example, which is in diagnosis. And so this is a customer case study. This is not something I personally worked on, but I'm intimately familiar with. If you talk about pre-flight inspections, so every time before any flight takes up, the plane, there has to be an inspection of the plane from the outside. Believe it or not, cracks may show up in different places, sometimes where the engine is connected to the wing, in doors, sometimes like rubber sealants are not there. They have to inspect the wheels. It's a very laborious process, and you can see it's an important safety measure, but it consumes time, requires expertise, and it has a massive checklist. I mean, this is actually just half of the checklist that they have to go through every time a plane is getting ready to leave. So the way the solution was done was, in this case, it's not really, it's not a predictive, it's not a forecasting type of situation, it's diagnostic. So even though it uses more or less the same elements, but the way it uses them is very different. The way it uses them is the following. So you have to start with annotated data. Annotated data means that it shows you examples of defects or cracks, and they are marked, as you will be able to see in the next slide. So you can mark in a picture, okay, I have this picture has the following problem, and this is how you classify that problem. And the key here is that you need to put together a large number of these examples. So these are essentially like training examples, just like when you want to train someone to recognize something, then you have to show them lots of different examples and variations so that they can actually develop the knowledge to do it. So this has to be done, and it requires, as I said, thousands of, even tens of thousands of images. And then again, you will train a specialized model. So you need to start with a specialized machine learning model that has been essentially primed to detect images, to understand images, right? So because this is the key of machine learning. You have the notion of what they call foundation models. This is like ChatGPT and others, which can be used for lots and lots of different things. But then there is another class, which is a more specialized model, which is geared towards producing, recognizing images, doing speech, video, and so on. So that also got trained. The model got trained, and then at this point you need to test the outcome. And now you have the model is now, someone has to actually test the outcome of the model using unlabeled images that have not been labeled. So the system doesn't know whether how they're supposed to be doing it. So at that point, it's actually almost like in production mode. And then the training, the testing feedback improves the training. So that keeps going like a feedback loop until you reach a certain level of acceptable accuracy. And at that point, you can actually deploy it to production. Now, how does that look in real life? So again, this is just the AI part. This is just the machine learning part. Reality, of course, is a lot more complicated. So if you look at it in context, so we can actually divide it into two sides. One is the model setup and training, which you've seen in the previous slide. So first step, we need to select that machine learning model. And it has to be specialized in object detection, because this is what we're trying to do. And then we have all of these images. We need to actually label them, and we need to create something called data set. And that data set can be created in something in like tools like Google Colab and other things, which other presenters also alluded to. And then we need to train the model using the data set, right? And so this is kind of part of the training. This is kind of an example of an annotated image, and this is a special tool to do that. So there are actually special tools that will actually do this annotation for you. So you actually mark the area where there is a problem, and then you classify it so that the system does that. And of course, as I said, this is something that in itself, this is one of the challenges, because you need access to this kind of information. Now, this is from the AI side. The next thing is actually your job is not done there, because part of it is actually you need to relate the physical inspection. Because if you look at how it works, someone has to go with a camera around the plane, take pictures of different places where they can see something that they want to diagnose. These pictures need to get mapped into the appropriate position on the plane, right? So that you can actually understand what you're looking at, so that the system can actually relate it to the appropriate image. So the first step that you need to do is actually you need to have a 3D model of the object that you're expecting. And that 3D model has to be very accurate. So it cannot be just drawn in a tool or something. It has to be done using scanners. So it has to be scanned to scale very accurately. And then that model, so it shows like something like that. And then you will need essentially to capture the coordinates of the image location. So what you do is that when you take a picture, then these points that you're taking needs to actually get mapped into that 3D model as dots, like that, right? So these dots essentially, and then the next step is to diagnose the images and then produce essentially a report or an outcome, right? And so you end up with like marking some dots in red and some in green based on the results of the diagnosis. So what I wanted to mention here is that this is only the machine learning or AI part. but this is actually very difficult to actually make it work and produce any kind of meaningful results without putting it in that larger context. So you still need to create mobile apps. You still need to create these 3D models. You still need to use scanners. You still, yeah. So it's just it doesn't actually. You have to look at it from the entire context of producing this complete and integrated results. And at that point, just like you've seen with the forecasting example, when you have this everything that caters for how do you extract the data, how you package it, and how you run it, and how you do the feedback. Same case here. Once you have this whole thing, then you have a useful application. And at that point, that can really make a difference. So this is really, I think this is, yeah, this kind of concludes everything that I want to mention. I didn't want to make it too long, but I just want to allude it to how to bring things a little bit more into the practical sense and how to actually build these models and how. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Majd, for this very insightful presentation, actually. And it really shows clearly the case of how AI can be used to diagnose and also forecast. We'd like to thank you on behalf of the committee for this presentation. Thank you very much. And can I invite you for questions and answers? Thank you. So first of all, I have a question. From your long experience in terms of tailoring strategies for organizations, how do you think this would make strategic planning for organizations much easier? How does it facilitate for decision makers after being provided with information like the forecasts or the diagnostics? How does it make planning a much easier process?
So definitely access to information is key. And the key here is that we need to make sure that this information is provided on a continuous basis and is reliable, that we can actually trust it. And in order to do that, there is really no better way than using these types of technologies. So I think going forward, I think it will free the time in like, as I said, just as one example, in one case only, that freed up 18-person month from an organization. And these are actually highly qualified people. These were not like data pushers. These are actually highly qualified people who can actually get a lot done. So you free them up from doing that. So they can actually look into something interesting. They can look into different types of analysis. They can apply their smart brains into something much more productive, much more valuable into the organization. So I think this will kind of accelerate the shift into more of the knowledge economy, because people would be actually, instead of wasting their time doing things that can be automated in that sense, then they can look into some, apply their talents into something a lot more creative and a lot more productive, and it can actually add a lot of value.
Thank you. Indeed, a lot of research suggests now replacing traditional structural system or structural organization or organizational structure with a more of an hourglass where this gap is reduced, where the middle management's role is more to reflect and embark on their conceptual knowledge, for example, like in sales, in this case, more suggestive role rather than data entry evaluation, because it's like a one-stop shop place. In this case, I'd like to see if any of the audience have a question for Dr. Majd.
Starting with the data, so this system forecasting system that what the data is dummy or the data is office. So how can the system indicate this is no wrong data to give wrong decision? So I don't know how the system will deal with this data. So how can up and they said no, we need to increase the quality of data give you the bit of result.
Yes.
So, one of the, really slides, you mentioned that machine learning, so I think it's part of that.
Yes.
So how that is going to affect or ensure that the quality of that, of the because it's all about that, all our understanding is going to be based on accuracy of data. So the verdict is going to be like, our regime is going to have to give us a shot. So I don't know how to ensure the accuracy of that. That machine learning for forecasting is working with that. It's going to be like,
Yes.
it's a big dream.
Yeah, these are excellent questions, very valid. And if you can see, not sure if I have access to anymore, but our solution for forecasting is not entirely based on machine learning. The first step we did is that we wanted to make sure that we capture accurate data from its sources. Because what you mentioned was exactly part of the problem. Because data is being copied, manipulated by hand manually, then a lot of errors are being introduced. So as you correctly mentioned, a lot of garbage comes into that data, and that will affect the outcome. So we thought, okay, we already have tools. I mean, there are mechanisms and tools in the data management, which we have a lot of experience in at CASP. What we decided to do is I decided, okay, we don't want to, at that point, it doesn't mean that since we're actually getting to use machine learning, it doesn't mean that I have to use machine learning for everything. Let me actually use machine learning for things that I cannot do anywhere else. That's tailor-made for machine learning. And let me focus on other things, quality, integrity, and all of these things, using the traditional techniques. This is what we did. I'm not saying that this is the only way or this is the best way, but in our case, this is what we did. So we applied the traditional methods of ensuring data integrity, data quality, validation. We applied all of that stuff in the ETL, which is the data integration layer, which is actually extracts the data from the sources. We looked at all the data rules, all the business rules that have to do with this data, how this data needs to relate to each other. We applied all of that stuff until we came up with a clean, reliable data warehouse, which collects the data from all the sources, cleans it, verifies it, and everything. And at that point, if there's any issue with the data coming in, then it would be stopped there. So this was our approach. Now, there's definitely a way, I think there's definitely, machine learning will sooner or later will get into this. At that point, machine learning is actually conquering pretty much everything. So I think it will get to this point. But I think for us, we cannot really, just because machine learning today cannot do it, doesn't mean that we just have to allow it to happen. We have to actually look into, we have a huge catalog of algorithms from computation over the last 50 years. And there are lots of tools out there that we can use and lots of expertise here in Kuwait that we can leverage and across the Gulf. So what we need to do is to make sure that we use the right tool for the right job. We cannot compromise on the quality of the data or the integrity or anything. We have to find a way to implement these business rules, implement them properly, verify them, do whatever this effort upfront. And then once we have all this in place, then the system can run. And at that point, it's just a matter of supervision, doing some quick verification, sanity checks, so to speak, because any forecasting system can always hit an outlier event, like COVID, for example. It's hard to predict something like that. There's nothing that you can do to prepare you for something that hasn't happened in 200 years. So there has to be these sanity checks of the outcome. You cannot just leave it and assume that it's always going to think of everything. It doesn't. So with that humility in mind, then when we approach it with this kind of approach, using the right tool for the right job, making sure that we don't fully trust the system, so to speak, because of these unforeseen events, then at that point, I think we have something that we can use reliably. So it's just not a matter of technology, but also a matter of discipline, assigning roles. Everyone understands their role, and that's why all of these smart people in that organization are now looking into the outcome, validating the outcome, relating that outcome into something else. So this is really important. I hope that addresses you.
More questions? Yes, please.
Doctor, I really appreciate the in-depth overview. My understanding is that this presentation, what you presented now, it's about preventative maintenance. In the sense, you are simulating the actual environment and the 3D modeling on that, and it's just going to likely occur in the real-time scenario. My question is whether can you populate real-time data wherein actually is happening, because this aerospace and also the healthcare industry demands Six Sigma or superior quality, right? You cannot afford to make a mistake on this. And also, possibly two questions. One is the real-time scenario, can you able to predict? And also, can you able to predict, based on the weather forecast and other, given the circumstances, whether will it going to make an accident or, how it's going to be the scenario planning? Will it be, will you capture those kind of insights?
Thank you very much. Yes, so the first step is that, of course, what I presented is something very specific to airlines. If you want to apply, but the same concept can potentially be applied, let's say, to an oil and gas installation. It has lots of pipes, and these pipes can have cracks, and these cracks are a huge hazard in terms of health and safety and also cost. Things preventive maintenance can be extremely effective at reducing cost and saving lives and all of that. So when we, depending, and that's why I said everything is context specific. All the stuff that I've shown regarding the plane is something that has to be done in order to make the system work seamlessly, right? When we're looking into a different problem, then we'll have to define the proper architecture for that problem. We cannot just say one size fits all and then we just assume that things are worked that way. For example, if you look at an oil and gas installation, it's a fixed installation, right? And it doesn't come in different flavors. I'm talking about a specific installation that I need to expect. So what I can do, for example, I can maybe put some cameras in key locations, and each of these cameras, I know that it's looking at a specific location. So at that point, I know that the output from that or the input from that camera is related to this part. And so I can actually use that part to test whatever kind of defects that can affect that part and that part alone. I don't have to look at anything else. And that will actually increase the reliability, because then if you narrow down the scope of problems to the specific thing that you're looking at, then of course, then you can probably reach levels of Six Sigma that you just mentioned as well. So again, every problem I think has to be thought about, and has to be a solution has to be devised for that problem that meets the expected outcome and fits it. So I think that's the how I would address that. I'm sorry, there was another component of the question.
Predictive model.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So of course, once you have this is one of the reasons why it was important to do the plotting of the points on the plane, because then once you do that, you can actually have a report or a bunch of data that relates to each specific plane. And that at that point, you can create a history of all the possible defects. And then you start actually reasoning through that and using machine learning. And then you can apply forecasting to that as well. And then you can see, I think based on that, you can also see within in a given plane how frequently these types of defects come up in each specific area. And then you can think, okay, maybe that connection needs to be redone or needs to go through deep maintenance in order to avoid it or something. So that this kind of insight may actually kick in, because you have this kind of fully contextualized system that really delivers everything you want, not just focusing on the AI or the machine learning part, but actually looking how this thing will actually get captured properly and use it in a form of reports or visual aids and things like that. And of course, you can take this to another extreme. You can even automate the inspection process. You can say, I'm going to program a drone, for example, to fly around the plane and take pictures. Of course, there is an issue with flying drones in an airport. That may be an issue, but I'm just coming with ways to even automate it further. So as again, we're in the early stages of all of this, and this is just a matter of, I think things are going to get a lot more interesting. It's just we need to make sure that we avoid the thinking of that one size fits all, and then I can just take that solution because it worked here and I'm applied here and it should work. No, we need to think about every time we apply a solution and cater for the specifics.
Thank you.
Kamesh, thank you very much. I have a final question. CASP has been in operation since 1985 in Kuwait and has been providing extraordinary service for many government departments, from public transport to all areas of technology sector and also oil and gas and energy. Where do you see the future of AI in this field, and what is CASP's role in contributing to that?
As a solution provider, our role is to actually identify problems that our customers face and make sure that we come up with reliable, appropriate solutions for them. And at that point, we cannot really ignore AI. I mean, AI is breaking boundaries everywhere, right and left. But we need to make sure that before we actually propose AI, just like, it's easy to come and say, oh, I'll solve it with AI. Before we do that, we do a lot of research. We look at all possible situations. As I said, for example, when you look at loan approvals, right? I cannot really use machine learning for loan approvals at this point. It will work, but it's not going to meet the stringent requirements for banks where they are legally required to provide audit on why they offer loans, because it's very difficult to do that for machine learning. When you do an audit decision using an automated system, even though that system is still rule-based, then that system can produce the reasoning. It can show exactly why this person was rejected, why this person was approved, and what kind of regulations contribute to this decision, and so on. It's impossible to do that with machine learning at this point, even though there are lots of effort to do what they call explainability, but these are still in the early stages and considered research at this point. So it's not, this is why we do a lot of research on our side. We try to pick, as I said, the right tool for the job. We don't try to overuse machine learning or AI, as important as it is. It is the future. It will break pretty much every boundary out there. There's no doubt about it. But when we do it, we don't just, even sometimes we run through customers who say, I want to be shown as using AI. There's a lot of pressure sometimes from the board, from shareholders, from the media, from whoever I want to be in that space. And so we respect that, we understand it. It's not just a matter of preference, it's something we understand the pressure. So we work with them to identify a use case that really lends itself to AI and machine learning. And then at that point, we design it and work it together. So we take it essentially, we're not going to go and solve like an entire industry problem or something. But what we do, we focus on the specific problems with our customers, and then we come up with the right way to handle them. That's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Ammar Abu Ubaid, the Executive Director of MG Solutions Integrated Systems, a US company, and he'll be talking to us today about artificial intelligence technology, brain image classifiers, the IC. Dr. Ammar.
شغال. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مساكم الله بالخير. الكل تعب اليوم شوف أنا اليوم ما راح أطول عليكم. أنا الشباب ما قصروا، قالوا كل شيء عن ال AI الذكاء الصناعي والفيتشرز والمميزاته شنو ال AI. لا أنا راح أروح straight forward. Next. هني بالتعاون مع جامعة جورج تاون يونيفرسيتي باك in واشنطن دي سي، تعاوننا مع المطبخ في الهند، المطبخ البرمجي. تدرون الهند صناعة برمجيات عالية جدا. توصلنا كتكنولوجيا دي سي كمبيوتر مع دكاترة الام دي الى حل او من حلول مشاكلنا العصريه الدوليه. توصلنا الى حلين لاستخدام تكنولوجيا الذكاء الصناعي في المجال الامني والمجال الطبي. المجال الطبي الله يعلم كلنا نعرف مشاكل الطب ومشاكل التشخيص الطبي والعلاج الغلط والتشخيص الغلط. هني وصلنا إن مع الدكاترة إن شلون نقرأ البرين العقل الإنسان وش يشتكي منه. يعني يدش المريض مرات يدش على الدكتور يقول له ايش تشتكي منه، يفحصه يقول له ما ادري ما ايش فيك، ما يعرف ايش فيه. روح سوي فحوصات، يدفع اللي تحت والفوق يسوي فحوصات وبعدين يقول له والله ما ندري. لا يبا هني وصلنا لتكنولوجيا فعليه حقيقيه شغاله قائمه حاليا بعده دول وعده مستشفيات لقراءه عقل المريض اللي هو عن طريق البرين سكانينج والبرين ريدنج. توصل المهندسين والاطباء الا ان عقل الانسان هو مثل الهارد ديسك مال الكمبيوتر، نفس الهارد ديسك مال الكمبيوتر. شلون الهارد ديسك اي شيء تكتب فيه ما راح ينمسح، نفس عقل الانسان من يوم يولد ليكبر كل شيء مخزن فيه ما ينمسح. يمكن الانسان يغمى عليه يموت يصير له حدث، ولكن العقل الانسان المعلومات الموجوده بعقله والاحداث اللي صارت وياه من صغر لكبر موجوده. اذا هني توصلوا لتولز شلون نوصل لعقل الانسان ونقرا المعلومات هذه اللي فيها، سواء بالشق الطبي لمعرفه الامراض والمشاكل الصحيه، او بالشق الامني اللي هو لحل مشاكل الجرائم والمشاكل الامنيه. اوكي، راح امشي على طول وراح اطول عليكم. النظام يشتغل على طريقه قراءه الذبذبات الالكترونيه، قراءة عن طريق علم الاعصاب، قراءه الاعصاب بالعقل الانسان ومتترجم. تؤخذ المعلومات من شوف ما في ترجمه هني، ما في سيستم يتدخل بالمعلومات هذه، تؤخذ من عقل الانسان وتظهر على طريقه تكست قراءه مكتوبه او صور او ينطبع على طريقه تقرير. اذا هي نوصل الى دقه المعلومات نعم دقيقه جدا، لم يتدخل فيها الجهاز ولا جهاز ولا الكتروني نظام الكتروني ابدا. هي ابدا وصول لمعلومات ويتم استقطابها واخراجها عن طريق على الشاشه او عن طريق ريبورت، عن طريق تقرير. يعني تم استخدام النظام في المجال الطبي والمجال الامني. نعم الجهاز ما له شغل بجهاز كشف الكذب، الصدق والكذب، هذا ما له شغل ابدا، هذا شيء ثاني. يقول لك والله الام ار اي شيء ثاني. الام ار اي از ماجنتيك ريسبونس ايمج، صوره مقطعيه وتبين صوره حق الدكتور وبس، وممكن الدكتور يشخصها صح او يشخص غلط، ما له شغل. نظامنا غير، نظامنا كان show you the brain function in real time. ابدا حقيقة معلومة الحقيقة الموجودة أو البين المرض أو اللي يشتكي منه الشخص ما. الحين حاليا بيستخدم السيستم في القطاع الطبي ومستشفيات ومستخدم حاليا فعليا رياليتي وبيستخدم بالمجال الامني. الحين خلينا نشوف الزبده. فيديو هذه حقيقه. الحين قاعد نشوف شيء ريال.
In a world where many lurk in the shadows, where deceit and death are rampant.
I know he did it, but I don't have enough evidence.
هذا قاعد يصير الايام هذه.
He was wearing gloves. Blood samples? Only of the victims. He was very careful. He knew what we would be looking for.
If you do not get more proof, we will close this case and justice will not be served.
He's not talking.
Traditional methods, like lie detectors, have their limitations.
Tell the truth. Did you commit the crime?
No, I swear. Often failing when the stakes are highest.
We need a breakthrough.
We need a breakthrough. هذا اللي قاعد يصير الايام هذه.
Brain electrical oscillation signature profiling unveils the secrets stored deep within the human brain. It looks at the brain to see if he has the memory of participating in the crime you are accusing him of. In a world where understanding the human mind is paramount, BIOS is the breakthrough technology that's changing the game.
Yes, this is exactly what we need. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for.
And now, meet BIC. The brain image classifier shows suspects' images of crime-related information and identifies if the suspect recognizes information about the crime that only the perpetrator would know, but denies all knowledge of. This can be used to identify accomplices, route taken, building scouting, weapons used, and a lot more.
So with the trustworthy evidence from BIOS and BIC, evidence obtained directly from the brain of the suspect, justice can be pursued and further investigations can be done.
In a world of darkness and chaos, BIOS and BIC bring the unfiltered truth to light. Unveil the truth with BIOS and BIC. The answers lie inside.
إذا في النظام في الشق الأمني صادر مشتبه والمشتبه به أو رئيس عصابة مو راضي يتكلم مو راضي يعترف ما له شغل ما في داعي يتكلم يخضع إلى كرسي الاعتراف ينحط الكبوس على راسه واصل الوايرات على الكمبيوتر ويتم أسئلة البرين العقل الإنسان بأسئلة سمارت كويستشنز أسئلة يدرب عليها الدكتور أو الانفستيجيتر المحقق لاستقطاب وجلب المعلومات أسئلة اللي هو المعلومات اللي يبيها هو من عقله اللي هي موجودة بعقله وقاعد يفكر فيها ولكن مو راضي يجاوب عليها. وهذا حاليا السيستم شغال بعدة دول أجنبية وآسيوية. مشكورين. السلام عليكم. في أي سؤال؟ تفضل.
اليوم انا سالتك واحده قاعد اسال
حياك الله.
بس حبينا نستفيد من هذا النظام.
نعم تفضل.
قول هو شخص هذا
تشخيص التقارير والتقارير والنتائج اللي طلعت قبل كذي 100% صحيحه.
كيف اذا في شخص مرات يكون عندي الم ولا شيء يكون هو حاله نفسيه اكثر من عنده الم ما عنده شيء.
احنا ما نتكلم عن حاله نفسيه حاليا.
هل السؤال هو هل هذا النظام يقدر يحل الحاله النفسيه؟
ابدا لا. لا احنا نتكلم عن امراض بالضبط اللي يشتكي منها جسم الانسان سواء بالراس بالقلب بالجسم. لو نرجع البرزنتيشن بليز اجين الارجل المعده القلب الرئتين راح تشوفوا الحين البرزنتيشن بليز اجين اي جسم الانسان نفسه وش اللي يشتكي منه، فهمت شلون؟ وكل جسم بالضبط هني هذه الصوره تبين كل غير عقل الانسان في جهاز يركب باليد بالرجل على القلب، يعني حتى تخطيط القلب حاليا الجهاز هذا ثبت ان جهاز تخطيط القلب غير دقيق الموجود حاليا. تخيلوا شلون سووا فيهم بينهم مقارنه كومباريزن وبين ابدا ان في عده اجهزه تخطيط القلب نتيجتها خاطئه، وهذا اللي هو نتج عنه صح بالنهايه. ففي اجهزه خاصه توصل على كل الاعضاء هذه جسم الانسان وتعطيك نتائج صحيحه وتم علاج الناس عن طريقها وكانت نتائج صحيحه وصادقه والحمد لله الامور طيبه. انا شخصيا من الناس يوم من الايام دشيت مستشفى بعد يومين مريض ما حد عارف فيني شنو فيني وفيني شيء بسيط، ولكن كبرت المشكله انها التهبت الزايده عندي وما حد عارف ان عندي زايده. لا الدكتور يقول زايده ما فيها شيء، الدكتور يقول شوف زايده ما فيها شيء، وهي كانت بتنفجر بعد كم ساعه. فجهاز دقيق جدا حيل جدا. ليش؟ احنا مو قاعدين نطلع لك توقعات، رياليتي ايش على على مخك على المخ وعلى العضو نفسه، وقاعد يعطيك نتائج وتقرير صحيحه دقيقه. حياك الله.
بخصوص اعداد البرنامج التعليمات او الجمل المحفوظه في البرنامج نفسه، هل هي على العالم كله ولا بس اللي هم يستخدموها لاسيا كذا تعلم اللي هم يستخدمون البرنامج هذا؟
النظام ما له شغل يتقبل اي لغه.
لا الاعداد الجمل اللي انت تاخذها هو عباره عن عنصر ذكي، فانت عديت بالبدايه.
ما في شيء اسمه عنصر ذكي يعني، قلنا ما في جهاز او برنامج داش بالنص بين نظام الكمبيوتر وبين عقل الانسان ابدا، ما في شيء، ماكو برمجه خاصه ابدا. هي بالضبط
ما عطيت انت في اول ما اعددت البرنامج المبرمجين الموجودين
هي انترفيس نظام يخليك تدش على عضو من اعضاء جسم الانسان عن طريق جهاز ما، بس ماكو شيء بالنص ابدا. عشان كذي الدقه جايه من وين جايه الدقه. نعم حياك الله.
دكتور عمار، في أسئلة دكتور عمار؟ شكرا جزيلا على البرزنتيشن القيم جدا، فعلا مهم جدا استخدام الذكاء الاصطناعي because it makes life easy for people on day-to-day basis, because then it gives you the diagnostics. So we would like
our pain.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. We'd like to thank you very much for. Do you have any more questions for Dr. Amar? Any more questions? Thank you very much. And on behalf of the committee, I would like to say thank you. Thank you for being with us today. And now allow me to welcome Dr. Haran Rabab, and who is a professor of computer science at the American University in Kuwait. He is a PhD holder from Tennessee State, United States of America. He'll be talking to us today about machine intelligence research projects at AUK. If I may invite you to the stage.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مساء الخير. استسمح منكم the presentation will be in English. I apologize if this can create an inconvenience. But inshallah will be fruitful and beneficial for all. Thank you for coming. The presentation is ready. Somebody can help me. I move to the next slides. Or do we have a remote from here? How do we move to the next slide? Yeah. The presentation is set. Let's see. This is.
Slides now are being prepared. So if you just tell us about the projects until the slides are ready at AUK, Dr. Aaron, allow me to give you the floor.
Thank you. So just a bit of introduction. As they introduced me, I'm actually my Arabic name is Harun. I graduated from United States, so I got another name. So Aram Rababa, and I'm a professor of computer science at the American University of Kuwait, at the College of Engineering. I'm happy to be here with you guys here. So thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy the great actually presentations that I just watched. One of them, Dr. Ammar. So it was a great presentation, and it's the same theme of AI and machine intelligence, machine learning, and all that fields. So, we need the presentation. So my presentation is will be, as I said, in the same theme of artificial intelligence. We have actually many several courses at the college in the engineering programs and the computer science programs. That's what the engineering college actually is composed of. Finally, all right, okay. Right, thank you. You're gonna help me to advance to the next, please. Oh, use this one?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, great. So sorry about this inconvenience, being delayed. These are the topics that I'm going to go through. As you can see, as an educator, I'll be focusing on the education half of the presentation, and we're going to talk about also AI-related projects as it relates to our students' productions. So I'm sure several presenters have talked about the history of mankind technological revolutions. And it goes way back, to the invention or the discovery of fire and weapons and all that thing. But what actually sets apart the nowadays revolution is this. Moving away from physical limitations, overcoming physical limitations. Most of the previous actual revolutions were focused on overcoming physical limitations, like the physical power of human being. But the current revolution is overcoming the mental power. And that's where the AI basically comes into the picture. Along the history, just like any other technology, AI has suffered of drawbacks, ups and downs. And as you can see, this map or this profile shows you that since the inception of AI in 1956, that was just an idea at Dartmouth College, possibility they talked about in 1956. And then now we are living reality, right? Reality of AI. But along the way, there was actually several ups and downs. But currently, as you can see, it's basically exploding and it's exponentially evolving. We are in 2023 and we're experiencing, and I'm sure many of you have used these AI tools. So relating to education, right? This is what we have in reality. We have at the bottom line, at the bottom base of the basically value pyramid of information, we have just raw facts and data. Every day we see things around us. We have sensors that collects data, as Dr. Ammar was talking about, brain sensors or temperature sensors, pressure sensors, images and audio signals, etc. There's a lot of data here, but it's mostly unuseful, right? It's just numbers. If you don't utilize this in the processing and getting knowledge, getting information, getting useful outcome of this, this is basically it's just unuseful, right? So we will. Our duty here is to create projects, create systems that automatically, right, deal with these raw facts and data and extract important information for the decision makers, whether it be government decision maker, whether it be security, whether it be education systems, whether it be health. And I'm sure many presenters have spoken about the different applications. As an educator, being a professor at the college, we value this taxonomy. This is actually great. If you are in education, you have a copy of this somewhere, and then you consult with it very frequently. Whenever you're designing a course, designing an exam, designing an assessment, we have to consult with this. This pyramid is the levels of basically skills, right? The cognitive skills of humans. The simplest one is at the bottom, remember. So all of us can remember things. You can ask me, what did you have on your breakfast, right? What did you have where did you go last night? And so on. So we remember things. And that's probably the simplest thing we can do, an activity a student can do, etc. But to be able to understand, to be able to apply, right? To be able to analyze, to be able to evaluate, right? And at the top of the pyramid, create. That's the most challenging. So we're not really in education systems. We should be looking at these skills from even pre-K until maybe PhD, right? All of these skills are growing with our students, but we should actually be targeting to grow these skills in every different level, okay? That's another chart that's really very interesting to us, that they made a study that says, and this tells you something about your method in teaching. what is the best method to teach your students? It says here, if you look at the top, it says, I wish I have a pointer. I didn't have a laser pointer. But at the very top, it says, when you read something, after 10 hours, right, or 10 days, actually, after 10 days, if you read it, just read it, you remember 10%. But if you listen, just like you guys, listening and maybe enjoying, hopefully paying attention, you remember 20%. So this is how much actually listening to some idea is better than reading. You have more attention. You have your eyes and ears, right? And then observe an image, that's visual, visual engagement, right? A video, a picture, something like that, graph. 30% you remember, right? And then watch a film or attend a demonstration. A demonstration of something like this guy, for example, a robot running around and doing things, a demo, right? Then it's more, 50%, right? Look at that now. Participate. You actively participate, not just listening or watching. You actively participate and you get 70%, right? And then finally, perform. You yourself, you perform the act. Whether it be an art, of course, there's many courses that teaches art, teaches engineering, teaches science, teaching whatever it is. If you participate, then the greatest value. These are great information for educators, for teachers and professors that take to their classrooms and then apply these principles. These are actually real science and research that has been done. So now my role today is to give you an idea what we are doing in EOK, what kind of projects, what kind of courses. Hopefully I don't take too much time, but we can hopefully skip some of the similar slides along them. This is called physical computing, and along and in the same theme of AI. Traditionally, computer science and programming, we're taught just using the screen and the keyboard, right? That's what I've been a student many times, decades in my life. And this is the way traditionally I've been taught by my professors and teachers. They show us the program and then the keyboard and the screen. But physical computing is, if you remember the previous charts, right? You are just looking and maybe hearing and listening. But if you actually have some robot, some project to build and create and examine and test and run, this is more involvement and engaging. It will have a greater value, right? In the developing the skills of the students, of our students, and greater benefits. So that's the main idea of physical computing, moving away from just basically keyboard and screen to creating projects like robots, right? Or other projects, not necessarily robots, control systems, for example, right? Many other systems, intelligent systems that can be applied in real life. So that's the main idea, right? And then we look at the real world impact. When you have a student not only being trained on a keyboard and screen, but trained on real world system, definitely they will be prepared for the real world industry, whether it be military, whether it be, let's say, automobile industry, whether it be, airlines or even nuclear, whatever. We minimize the mistakes. We minimize the shock when you go student from just academic setting into real world industry. We minimize that. Otherwise, the gap is big if you don't actually produce or introduce real world projects and physical computing in your classrooms. Right? And there's we surveyed many literature that actually supports the idea. There is actually an actual literature. Some people, some professors, some researchers, they have done real studies on students, and they discovered what we have actually talked about, how physical computing dealing with real world projects can enhance and improve the skills of the students when they go to the real industry. This is a course at AUK we have created according to these findings, which actually includes sensors and microcontrollers and robots and so on. And after the first trial of the class, we got this response. How did you like the class? And many questions. Overall, 92 point whatever, right, was very positive response. And this is great actually news to see how positive is that the course was, has an impact on our students. And then we can talk about some real projects done by students. This is one of them, a maze solving robot, right? Automatically, an intelligent robot can traverse, just like smart vehicles on the road. But of course, there's a smaller setting and smaller environment. This was done by our students. Also, using a cell phone to command a robot to move and obey some commands, like move forward, go left, go right, stop, speed up. You just talk to the robot, and it will be translated as a signal, and then the robot will basically run that command. That's another project. Another project, which is actually, is important for health industry, fall detection. We have elderly people that may suffer from falls. If they are alone at home, they are somewhere alone, and then, Allah, they fall down. And if nobody's there to support and to help, we need some machine or device or system to send a signal to their doctor, to their 911, to their relatives. We can record these phone numbers automatically, and then they will alarm them that fall detection has happened, right? So this is for health application. Another one for security. So our students also design, how security monitoring, let's say this hotel, we need to monitor the activities inside, indoors, outdoors, of suspicious maybe people, right? At night, at day. Can we automate this? Can we create a software that's automatically can monitor, looking at the cameras and they detect some intrusions or some violations? That has been done by our students also. In industry, can a robot examine a piece of wood that has defects, that has a problems or not, right? Again, that's an AI-based solution. And then another project that has been run by the students is, how much energy nowadays and for the future is a concern in every sector, right? And how much we hear actually the government telling us to please preserve energy, preserve water, preserve electricity, etc. Be conservative, right? This project was designed in order to monitor your house and which machine and which device consumes more and how much did this consume, let's say, this week or this month. So you have an idea. When you go home and you light up everything and you turn this on, turn this off, you have an idea what device consumes what. But this will give you a report, right, on every device, how actually it's consumed, what is the profile. That would be nice to have. But all of these are prototypes and need to be taken the next level to the industry. Another one just for fun, for gesture recognition. Another team of students designed a software that looks into the camera and it detects the gesture, the moves of your hand, and understand the command. And basically, it can draw on the screen. It's nice for many applications, right? To control different devices or just to draw for fun, right? Also, since we're in education, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you have to use multiple choice questions. And if you know the market, you are familiar with these papers, the green papers, and that machine, the scanner. It's a costly system, it's expensive, but it's still in use, right? The multiple choice, you fill in the blanks or you fill in the bubbles. We use them many times. And we still use them in AUK. So since it's expensive and the paper, you cannot use any paper, right? the company design these and print these and sell them actually in an expensive price. So what we did in a group of students said, can't we do better than that? Much cheaper system using a camera and an intelligent software and regular airflow, just the regular people, so anybody can print it, anybody can use it. And we actually managed to a high accuracy, very high accuracy, above 95, 97, 98%, right, achieved. And this is just a capstone project. Dr. Ammar was talking about this technology, right, the PCI. Our students did a similar project. Of course, they didn't design the helmet, but you know, it's acquired from the market already available. But the software, the testing, and the implementation done by these students. And they were successful in order to control, not by their hands, only by their mind, controlling the game, right? Of course, how much? Not too much, but at least they show us an evidence that it's working. So they passed the course, okay? That's the good news. Currently, one of the groups are working on, you know how much sleepiness or drowsiness while you drive is very problematic. I mean, we admit it. I'm guilty of that as well. You know, I feel tired, but still I drive. I'm sleepy, still I drive. And that's not a good idea. But if you had to do that and you have this system, right, it will continuously look at your face and your eyes and your mouth and your neck, right, how you're behaving. And then we can detect a bad behavior from you, detect drowsiness, and could actually possibly stop the car, right? We could signal the computer of the car to stop it or to slow it down, right? Or just basically simply to annoy you with an amazing sound that's going to wake you up, right? But we can't do anything. This decision can be done, but the detection is the most important. And there's a group of students working on this. We created a club, right? That's called SPHRi, which stands for Smart Programming Autonomous Robotics, right? At AUP. And these some of the events, a great actual community that we need to, but unfortunately with COVID, it kind of got deactivated because it's hands-on. You have to meet and you have to work on things together in a teamwork. So inshallah, we are hoping that it will be revived and we enjoy the benefits of it soon. How much time do I have? 5 minutes? Okay. So I have a lot. This part was the students' work, students. And then I want to talk about my own work, right? Which is not important. Right? Most important is just what our students, because if our students succeed, right, we succeed, right? Everybody succeeds. Parents succeed, the college succeed, the community succeed, the government succeed, the country succeed, right? I don't want to we spend too much time on my work, but and it might be boring even more than the students. But let me show you some of their work. This one, because I was so annoyed with the, you know how much potholes and cracks and in the roads, we suffer that every day, right? Not only in Kuwait. We go to USA, you know, I studied and lived for basically 15 years, USA. And it's, give and take, it's very similar, right? Potholes are very annoying. Could we actually utilize our own vehicles, or just maybe just one vehicle that is owned by maybe the government or maybe a private company or something like that to actually scan automatically the roads, the road networks, and then collect this basically information and process that. And whenever it finds a problem, right, it tags it with the location and sends the image and the location to the authorities. Please fix this problem automatically, right? So that was one of the problems. This is the same. Sensor networks, forget this one. I'm taking too much time. Security, right? Outdoor surveillance. You know how much security people they can be tired or they can take breaks, but machines, computers, AI agents, they don't. We want somebody 24 hours, every second, looking at these locations or secure places and to monitor for violations, for intrusions, for whatever security events. So this system was designed toward that. Indoor robotics, again, we talked about that. This was actually an amazing project that was published in the top journals in the world. And you know, I really am proud of this work. It's my own. And what we did is currently in Kuwait, we don't have investment in this kind of energy, wind turbine energy. But I don't know when that's going to happen, and if it is even suitable, right, or feasible for the Gulf region. But it was feasible in other parts of the world, right? Like Europe is big. I think 25% of the energy coming from wind turbine. And so it's a great investment in the future, even basic projections for this energy. So what we wanted to do, since these systems are vulnerable to the elements, to the environmental elements, we wanted to create a system that's automatically monitor, intelligent system, monitor their health, whatever the mechanical system, the gear system, the bearings, or the structural parts. And since they are remote and nobody actually lives there, so this system will be the monitoring 24/7 and reporting any possible problems before they happen. Because when they happen, they are catastrophic, right? If something you've seen probably many videos on YouTube how these fail, right? We don't want that to happen. We skipped some of the parts here. If I see something interesting, this is interesting. We're using the deep learning. This is a cutting edge, basically the most modern machine vision image processing methods in order to classify images. So some cities, they may want to know the styles of the buildings. And this is specifically special for what? Architectural engineering. They want to know what type of styles, if you have different styles, maybe Kuwait, I don't know how much styles, traditional, modern, right? But in some cities, rich history, like maybe Rome, or maybe Spain, or maybe some, Islamic and Arab countries, they have some rich, history that some parts of it will have a diverse, I would say, many styles of buildings. So can a computer look at these buildings and classify them automatically? That is really the main idea of this. This one, another interesting project. You know how much basically accident happens, and then most of the time, what happens if it's done on the street, we need some team to go there, and maybe they block the traffic, and then all kind of problems, safety issues, and so on. And then can we estimate the damages automatically? Because it's really subjective, right? You take it to somebody, some mechanic shop, they will give you maybe 1,000 KD. Another shop maybe 500. So who's right? Humans are subjective, correct? But machines are not supposed to be, right? Maybe in the future they will be, right? The closer they get to human intelligence, the closer they actually mimic and simulate our behavior. But sometimes you can make them, like robots in industry. They are repeatable, they are productive, they don't suffer from moods, right? So they are more reliable. So this was one of the points. I would like to move forward. This is an interesting one. Who's your favorite? This item, right? It's interesting, right? If you know about maqams, right? Anybody knows about maqams? Quran, right? So there's some people that can learn, right? And so a system can listen to the citation and will tell you what maqam is this being read or decided? So that's another challenging project was done in research as well. It's very exciting, very interesting. All right, so that's it for me, but some final remarks. As you can see, AI brings vast opportunities, but also challenges, right? AI literacy, and this event, thanks to the organizers, will support that basically far. What is in it for you, right? Are you part of the industry? Are you part of education? Are you part of government? Think about how can you contribute. Learning by doing, I talked a lot about it, right? You see how many projects, how many courses were developed in order to improve the cognitive skills of our students. Since I come from engineering and applied sciences, I see a great opportunities, right, for AI to be used and utilized in basically in our research, in our education, classrooms, labs, etc. And this is a responsibility on the educational systems in order to take an action. We see it firsthand, how AI is exponentially evolving. If we don't act fast enough, we will basically lose the train, as they say. Okay, so thank you very much for your kind attention today, and any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aaron, for this very insightful presentation to the world of academia now, where we are and how you showed us how this is applicable now for industry and great effort that academics are putting in to prepare the future generation. Would like to thank you very much, and do the audience have any questions? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. As an academic, I will ask you one question is, basically we are living in a world where people, they are either overwhelmed of the artificial intelligence or the technologies or over trusted. So what's the role of educator to teach people is not to be one of these two, overwhelmed or over trusted. I'm gonna give one example is about everyone saw the movie Suri, is about the airplane who landed which landed in the sea. But I mean, like, it's whatever the simulation they put it in, it will crash. So this is not possible. There is a human factor has to be there to be accurate or to be valid. The over trusting is sometimes people like to say the machine said it's gonna be this way, so it has to be this way. No, it's not. Or some people, they are very afraid of the technologies. They don't want to use the technology. They even like face down their phones is because they don't want the phone to listen to everything. So what's the role of educators to teach the younger generation who are actually depending 100% on the technologies? Thank you very much. That's a great question. Well, but you know, this is very typical human, I think, behavior and to any technology. It's not actually special to AI. If you think about maybe 100 years ago or maybe more, maybe people maybe were afraid of their cars or automobiles. You know, with all driving horses and donkeys, whatever. They say the automobile, maybe they were scared from it, right? So the ignorance sometimes is basically what is the barrier between getting comfortable with the technology, getting entrusted with the technology. But also the other side you talked about is basically over trusting, right? And then letting the technology lead. And I don't know, there's many concerns. You watch some documentaries, you watch some experts talk about this concern in the military, in the security, at the government level, etc. So I think this is a collective effort, not only on educators, government, private sector. Again, we thank the organizers. This is a great event. So for all of us to come and then talk about it. And then hopefully we can all help each other to understand this technology. My role, I go to my classrooms, whatever classes I'm teaching, my students, hopefully, they will be exposed and they will be trained. So they take also this knowledge back to their families and they are back to their neighborhoods. right? And then maybe they will be also educators in the future, in the near future, right? They will help us as engineers, as educators, to spread the trust and also, to be careful, also, not to trust, as you said, well, respected opinion, right, on that side. So that's my take on, AI, what is happening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Allen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
At the end today, I would like to thank you again for coming, for your attendance. And we'll see you tomorrow, inshallah, at 9 a.m. So let me wish you a great day and we'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. Goodbye for now.